due to health conditions. He said, quote, "My last game I played dealing with an irregular heartbeat. Later on that night, my rhythm got even worse, which really worried me even more. The next at the hospital getting me checked out. Though I'm better now, what I felt with my heart that night was still one of the scariest things I have experienced. With that being said, I've made the difficult decision to retire from the NBA. For 15 years, I put basketball first, and now it is time to put my health and my family first." So first of all, we wish him and his family the best. This is obviously the right decision. No basketball game is more important than being there for the rest of his life for his family. But Vince, I mean, when you heard this news, what were your first thoughts, and what will you remember about playing against LaMarcus?
Well, let me say my first thoughts took me back to, doesn't matter when, my junior year in high school, somewhere in the 90s. I was dealing with an irregular heartbeat situation where I had the scary walk from my high school where the hospital was across the street. Oof. And I had to go through the EKG test just to make sure everything was fine. And, the thought of that doctor saying, hey, you might not be able to play this season. As a young kid, basketball is everything. You're having the goal to go to, you want to go to college and you want to play in the NBA. Yeah. So scary. As soon as I heard that, it was just a scary moment. But hats off to LaMarcus for making that tough decision, because there's a lot of guys who would make the decision saying, I feel better now, I'm going to keep going. And for him, he said, my family and my health is more important than the game of basketball that I've given everything to. And he should be saluted for that. But him as a player, his body of work in Portland and his body of work in San Antonio it should never be questioned. And I've had the luxury, I guess, the pleasure of guarding him, right, there taking some elbows from him. Yeah, because when you talk about a player on the left side of that block, you're watching tape of just that alone. I mean, you see here, like, I'm going to take away his left shoulder, and he has the ability to go to the right shoulder. And by the way, that was a charge right there, that elbow, and it hurt me for a couple of weeks. But I tell you, I'm going to tell you that. But let me tell you, I mean, he's just a great player. And, when you study film on a player, you watch them, what they do around the court, and it's like, that's fine. But LaMarcus Aldridge on the left side of the court in the post was one of the toughest things, and you had to prepare for that you couldn't prepare for at the same time.
Look, 7 All-Star teams, making 7 All-Star teams in the West is no joke. 20,000 points. We're rounding up to 20,000 points. He's 49 short. We're rounding up 20,000 points. And that jumper, that high release point, that was a jump shot where defenses had to scrap whatever their usual game plan was to account for that jump shot. You could not let LaMarcus Aldridge shoot pick and pop twos, even if they were just twos, because he would pick and pop you to death. And on that left block, forget it. That was his office. He was taking you down to his office hours. And in Portland, Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, the first 2 awful career-ending injuries. LaMarcus Aldridge was the bridge to Damian Lillard. And never forget, 2014 playoffs, first round, completely destroyed the Houston Rockets from the left block. 2014-15, before Wes Matthews tore his Achilles, that Blazers team with Dame, LA, Batum, Wes, and on, that was shaping up to be a potentially really interesting team, a possible contender, and was just a joyous team to watch. And LaMarcus was the bridge from one era to another. Then he goes to San Antonio, and who knows what happens if not for that Golden State dynasty rising up. The Spurs were set to be their biggest challenger. Then the Kawhi and KD situations happened. Just a great, great career. My first reaction today was shock, like, what? That's happening? And then, we take these guys for granted and we pick apart their games and this and that. LaMarcus has gotten older over the years. I'm going to miss that turnaround from the left block that nobody could touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen players with problems like this before. It can lead to something very serious if you push it. So, again, congratulations to LaMarcus on an incredible career, made his stamp in the league, and we will miss you. All right, guys. A wrestling-style belt that the team awards for the best defensive player in every win. Now, Dorian Finney-Smith joked with Luka afterward that he didn't deserve it because he only had 2 steals. But gosh, Luka clearly thrilled for winning it for the first time in his Mavs career. He brought the belt to his post-game press conference. And honestly, can you blame the coaching staff for wanting to reward him just a little bit more? In truth, after that shot, they could have just won around the arena, given him everything that was not nailed down. Look at Rick Carlisle. Here's what he had to say after the game.
this is just this is one of those joyous nights, where we escaped. We had Houdini. I can't tell you how many $1,000 I've lost to him on half-court shots. One time in Mexico City, our second year, I paid him off in pesos because I was so pissed about it. And I don't bet with him anymore.
That is a smart move, Rick Carlisle. I mean, it's amazing. And I know what he's talking about, right? Just this past Monday night, we saw him doing that soccer-style shot before the Mavericks game where he flipped it with his feet and then took that impossible angle. I think we have the video. Just that impossible angle from the side in the arena. Woo! Luka just doesn't do this in practice, though. He saves a lot of these in the game. Since he entered the league, no one else in the NBA has hit more tying or go-ahead three-pointers in the clutch. This was against Portland. That was just insane, right, from his rookie year? You got the playoff shot in the bubble versus the Clippers. Oh, I'll take that, thank you. Or from this season, we all remember that three against Boston. Just absolutely crazy. And every time Luka makes one of those shots, he's pretty modest about it. He called what he did last night, quote, lucky. He said he couldn't even see the basket when the ball left his hands. That I buy, by the way. He's clearly aware, though, of what a big deal they are. It imbues the entire team with confidence, helps paper over what, let's be honest, has been a bit of an up and down stretch for Dallas. In just this past week, there has been a round of intense scrutiny on the Luka-Kristaps Porzingis relationship, fans going to the internet and to the tape counting how many daps they had for each other during various games. There was also the bit of controversy over the play-in game. You had both Luka Doncic say he doesn't even understand why there is a play-in tournament. He doesn't think it's fair. And then Mark Cuban came in, doubled down, despite that Mark was one of the owners who voted for it. That spurred some eye-rolling around the league since the Mavs were only publicly upset with the new system after, how do I say this delicately, falling into the 7th seed themselves. Still, last night, as soon as that ball switched through the netting, it was just like a wave of the wand, which I guess means Luka Magic is the right nickname indeed. Thank you to our control room for getting us through that segment. That was very impressive. I want to transition. I mean, look, he was the MVP favorite going into the year. And I always make the point, Vince, that's just the betting, right? That's who the people in Vegas think they can get the most money on. But that was a bit of the level set or the expectation. He's not an MVP candidate right now around the league. But has he lived up to your expectations for year three?
I tell you what, Rachel, he's been smooth sailing, though. We watched him as soon as he got into the league, and you're like, wow, this is not your everyday rookie. He's playing at a different level and a different pace, which was his pace. And then he moves into his second year. You can tell he's gotten better, and he's gotten better in his third year. MVP, in the beginning, because we were watching him in the bubble, and he was outstanding. And he's been outstanding up and down all year. But I tell you what, he's still playing at a great level. Maybe not MVP level, but he's as advertised for sure.